ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. My name is Lorraine Santuccia, and I'm the president of Scholarship Sharing, the organization that's supposed to be tonight. I would like to first start by thanking all of our panelists for being here. We appreciate you taking the time to come out and help students and their families to learn about the process of scholarship programs, financial aid, and other college funding opportunities.
I'm Terrence Banks, student loan counselor and credit counselor, as well as housing counselor at Bay Point Credit Counseling Solutions. Honored to be here.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Page, and I'm the scholarship coordinator in the foundation office at Dave Sargent Reynolds Community College.
I'm Jonathan West. I'm director of College Funding Group in Richmond. We work with families to figure out the best way to pay for college for your family.
Can I ask a quick question? When you say that, are you Richmond exclusively, or are you
We're in Richmond, and we work with people from all over Virginia.
As I just said, my name is Tom Katosich. I work for the Virginia Credit Union. I am a scholarship judge on our Dorothy J. Hall Memorial Scholarship. It's a wonderful program. There's other scholarships available through different credit unions. My primary role at the credit union is marketing and on-site promotions, things like that. I teach financial education as well. But in my role here, I'm a judge of scholarship applications.
I'm Cherry Hutchins, and I'm the Financial Education Director at Virginia Credit Union. We partner with VCU on many events for promoting financial education and financial literacy. I'm also the scholarship administrator for our eligible community scholarships that we partner with Virginia Credit Union's eligible communities. So.
Good evening. My name is James Penix. I'm the Dean of Admissions and Enrollment Management at Radford University, and I oversee our merit-based scholarship program.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Teresa Cry. I'm the Associate Director of Student Support Services and Outreach at the Office of Financial Aid here at Virginia Commonwealth University.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Katie Mitchell. I'm a VCU alum. I am the CEO and founder of the nonprofit organization Teens Without Two, which I create fundraisers to raise money for teens that come from single-parent households, such as myself, in order to help them pay for college.
Hi, again, as I mentioned, my name is Jeff Wilson, and I work at Padilla CRT Public Relations here, but I also am president of the Richmond Public Relations Foundation, which is part of the Public Relations Society of America, the Richmond chapter. And each year we give two $1,000 scholarships to college juniors or seniors studying who plan to pursue careers in public relations and attending a college or university here in Central Virginia.
Thank you all so much. I'm going to start by asking a couple of questions that we received ahead of the event, and we'll also be taking questions from you guys throughout the event. Please feel free at any time to just raise your hand and say, "Hi, I have a question." Introduce yourself, and then feel free to ask whatever you'd like to know. To start, we're going to go ahead and ask a couple of questions. Hope you guys are prepared. I sent them all to you ahead of time, so I hope you did your homework. Okay, our first question. I've applied to the FAFSA before, and every year I'm told I'm not eligible for grants and loans. Should I bother to apply for the next school year, or should I focus on getting a job or applying for scholarships? Teresa Cry, you have the floor.
Can everybody hear me without the mic? Okay, great. So in terms of applying for financial aid, we always encourage students to apply because you want to have the FAFSA on file. If something were to happen during the academic year where a parent loses a job or there's a medical issue, we can go and reevaluate that FAFSA and look at the income again. But if you don't have it on file, then there's not an opportunity for us to do those things. So it's always safe to have it on file. If you don't have it, then we can't go back and review that information. So you can always decline loans. We don't make you accept the loan, but it's important that that form is on file with the office.
Thank you very much, Teresa. I appreciate it. Would anybody else like to take a stab at that question? Okay. For myself, I agree with your answer. It's always best for a student to submit the FAFSA because every year your information can change. While you may not be eligible for some financial aid the previous year, your situation may have changed or your financial needs may be different. Even if you're not eligible for grants, it's still good to be able to have the FAFSA in because if you are only going to be eligible for loans, you'd rather be eligible for loans such as subsidized loans than having to take out a Parent Plus loan or a Perfect loan or a Stafford loan. And without applying to FAFSA, those opportunities won't be available. Our next question. When applying to scholarships, I'm often asked to order transcripts. Should I have these sent directly from the university, or should I pick them up and include them with the rest of the required application materials? Would anyone like to answer that question? Thank you. Katie, you have the floor.
When applying for scholarships, it's always best to make sure all your containing documents are sent together. So when you have the deadline for the scholarship that you're applying for, make sure that you request an official transcript ahead of time to have that printed off for you, signed to make it official, to be able to send that with the rest of your application. Because personally, as my nonprofit CEO and founder, students are sending me their paperwork to apply for the scholarship that I offer, and I want to have everyone's information together and supporting documents together so nothing gets lost.
Excellent answer. Would anyone else like to take the opportunity to answer that? Jeff Wilson, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what she said. My name is Jeff Wilson, and I represent the Richmond Public Relations Foundation, which is a foundation of the Public Relations Society of America. We give a couple of scholarships each year to students pursuing careers in PR. And I agree with you. When we get those, last year we had something like 12 to 15 applications. And it was really great to have all of that information together in one packet. Not to say that something would happen. There are a lot of students on a campus, and the place where you're getting the transcripts, they're dealing with a lot of paperwork. So you just don't want anything to get lost in the shuffle, because I know, when we're trying to decide, for these 2 scholarships that we're given, any reason that we have to knock a student out and one less application that we'd be able to evaluate, we would take it. So if you're missing, the essay, or you're missing the transcripts or whatever our requirements is, you don't have it, that's one less application we'd have to review. So you know it's in your hand, and you put it in that envelope, or you put it together in that PDF and send it, you know that you have provided all the information.
Excellent answer. Would anyone else like to try to answer that? Okay, great. Yes, it's always best to have all the applications together, because when you're sending in your application, the person who's reviewing the application is going to look at, did you submit everything neatly? Did you submit it all on time? Did you submit everything we asked for? Now, if an organization doesn't ask for a transcript, don't send it. They're already looking at a lot of materials in their applications. They're getting a lot of applications already. So if they don't ask you for a resume, if they don't ask you for a transcript, if they don't ask you for a letter of recommendation, they don't need any extra paperwork. By sending in something that we don't actually ask for, you're basically causing them to throw out your application because it's biased for them to look at your application versus other students. And they may throw it out because you just didn't follow directions. So make sure that when you send in things, send in what they ask for on time, all together. Don't send in anything extra.
Lorraine, I have something to add to that.
This is Thomas.
Hi, there is one kind of stipulation to that. The scholarship that we offer, my name is Tom. Hi, I'm with the Virginia Credit Union. We offer a scholarship for our members, for anybody who's a member with the credit union. And with ours, our application process is 100% online. So the application, as well as your work history and events and activities and clubs and all that good stuff that we ask for, we ask you to submit it online. And in our specific instructions, we ask to have your transcript sent directly to us from your school. So this is not necessarily a blanket answer. You don't necessarily want to have it directly shipped to you and then to the judging entity. You want to make sure that you're reading their specific rules and policies, because with ours, like in the actual application process, it says we request that you have the university or the high school or other university send the transcripts directly to us at the credit union. So just make sure that you're reading the fine print. I can tell you a lot of the applications that we don't read are ones that are not completed properly. Okay, so it's not necessarily a blanket answer for that. But in the case like the gentleman was talking about down at the end, if they do require you to fill all that stuff out and print it in, or print it out and mail it in, then that might be a better option to have everything all together, just because it would be easier to keep it all together. So make sure you read the fine print.
We're going to continue now. We'll briefly take a break from this. Would anyone in the audience like to ask a question? Yes, ma'am.
Jerry,
Okay.
you said we don't belong to the gym, right?
Okay.
But you said you partner with others in the community, and you still have to be for the credit union.
Specifically for scholarships, we have another scholarship program. So we have two scholarship programs with Virginia Credit Union. One is the Dorothy J. Hall Scholarship, which is for our members only. Another scholarship is we partner with schools in our eligible communities. So, for example, the city of Richmond, all the high schools in the city of Richmond, we provide $1,000 to each high school in the city for a student, particularly in that high school. We partner with let's see here, Fredericksburg area, James Monroe High School, Farmville, Buckingham, Nottoway, Cumberland, Hopewell, Petersburg. So all of our eligible communities, we offer scholarships to the high schools, and it's specifically and they do not have to be a member to apply for that scholarship.
So that information.
Yes, they would see their high school guidance counselor.
And to add to that, I do believe that you guys work with the Richmond chapter of credit unions, which is for not only the Virginia credit union, but multiple other credit union areas as well.
Correct.
Yeah, I brought some information about that here. Yeah, we do also partner with what's called the Richmond Credit Union League, the Richmond chapter of the Virginia Credit Union League. So if you are a member of another credit union in the Richmond area that belongs to this kind of union of credit unions, which that information is on the Virginia Credit Union League website, they do two $1,000 scholarships for anybody. It's open to anybody who belongs to those credit unions, but it's not just for the members themselves, but if you're a parent is a member of one of those credit unions. So to get a full list of that, please visit the Virginia Credit Union League website, and we're under the Richmond chapter.
Yeah, that's kind of confusing, just because Virginia Credit Union League is not Virginia Credit Union, so it's two different entities. They are kind of the lobbyist group for credit unions across the state. Virginia Credit Union League is. So credit unions are affiliated with the league, and if your credit union is affiliated with the league, then you would be eligible to apply for that scholarship. So just to clarify the difference between Virginia Credit Union and Virginia Credit Union League. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. Would anybody else like to ask a question? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to know what would make high school eligible.
And to make it so that everyone at home can hear us, I'm going to repeat the question before you guys answer, if that would be all right. You said, what would make a high school student eligible to apply for your scholarship program?
Credit unions have different criterion for membership, and Virginia Credit Union in particular, one of the ways that you can join, we're cooperative, so there's certain ways to join our credit union. We were originated by the state for state employees. They expanded our charter to where now if you live, work, and worship in particular areas, you are automatically eligible to join Virginia Credit Union. So our eligible communities are very specific in our charter as far as who we can serve. And so if the high school is within that eligible community, at this point we've opened up the scholarship to all the high schools in our eligible communities.
Thank you very much.
So like Henrico and Hanover and Chesterfield are not included in our field of membership. But if you are a member of one of any credit union, really check their website for scholarship opportunities, because most credit unions on some level do offer their own individual scholarships. Most do.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to continue with some of the questions that were asked online. The next question is, what is the process of those who are judging scholarships? How are scholarship winners selected? You can speak either on behalf of your own organization or scholarships in general. Who would like to go first?
I can speak on behalf of Reynolds. At J. Sergeant Reynolds, we have a foundation, and we award over close to $500,000 in scholarships to our students every year. And that's through funds raised through our college's foundation. We have a scholarship committee that scores and ranks our scholarship applications. So that's where our process begins. Our applications are scored and ranked. Once they're ranked, we have a common application. So our students fill out one common scholarship application to be considered for all of the different funds we have available. So we offer scholarships from between 70 and 80 different funds, so individual pots of money. And our committee matches the students to the scholarships that they may meet the criteria for. And so once our applications are ranked, we have a committee that is looking at the strength of their essays, their letters of recommendation, and then grades play a part as well. And so that's a part of our process.
Great, thank you very much. Katie, I believe you wanted to answer as well.
For my particular scholarship, I have a set of requirements. Obviously, Teens Without Two is a scholarship opportunity for teens that come from single-parent households. So that's number one. Definitely display financial need. The recipient of my scholarship, I want them to be on great academic standing and very involved in school and the community. So they have to have at least a 3.0 GPA, as well as answering the essay questions on how they're involved in their community, how they've made an impact on the community. So they are judged on their essay answers and meeting the requirements for the scholarship.
Great. Would you like to go ahead and answer?
Yes. I would say at the four-year schools, when you're looking at merit-based scholarship programs, understand that it's very competitive. Most colleges is going to say it's a competition. And some are on campus, and some are just the criteria that your student will establish with their university. At Radford University, our merit-based scholarship program for those students who's going to be in top 20% of that graduating class, 3.5 GPA or higher. SAT scores with the combined is going to be at 1100, 1150 and higher, and then or ACT score of 24 or higher. One of the questions we always get is there's a lot of students who are going to have the 3.8 GPA, but they may not have the SAT scores. You want to make sure they meet both criteria within that. First and foremost, when we're making the judgment, because you're going to get 1,000 applications for those scholarships, it's going to come down to what has your student done within the high school's curriculum. What have they done based on that GPA, the class they've taken, the strength of that class they've taken, and how they perform. Those those are the first and foremost criteria. And once again, I know a lot of times people want to ask for your activities resume, and I hear a lot of times people was like, okay, but my student is the SGA president, president of this club, involved in this activity. First and foremost, you have to say, it comes down to the GPA, the SAT scores, and then we look into those outside criteria, leadership, service, those different things, high standing when we determine the top awards there. And you have a follow-up question.
I do. You can speak slower. You can't type.
You love that.
My question is, this, when you pulling in all these different trends, you have to refactor the GPA on an unweighted scale?
We would look at each
May
one.
I repeat the question?
Yes.
First? When you're looking at applications, do you look at GPA on an unweighted scale? That's correct?
Some schools are weighted, some schools are not, so that would skew the GPA.
That's why I said we go back to the high school transcript, and I try to go slow about. It really goes down to, first and foremost, we're going to compare you to the students within high schools, and they may be within the same school system. So Chesterfield County students may be looked at within Midlothian High School, the different high schools, and then within the county. It's no way to compare New England students with Virginia students because there's so many different scales. So we're, most admissions office, colleges is going to have counselors who travel to the different areas. So we know the high schools very well. And I know, and I won't call out names, there's some schools who have a weighted scale, and it's, once I go back and recalculate that GPA, because I do, it brings it back down into line. We want everybody to be on that same 4-point scale. So and that's where you'll find in a lot of the colleges, it takes a long while to review your applications because there's so many differences. Yes.
Great answer. Jeff, I believe you want to take it?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out again, my organization is similar to what the other woman said. It's based on a foundation. So the main thing that we ask for, and it's pretty similar for a lot of organizations like ours, we certainly do ask for your college transcripts. We also ask for a resume so we can see your work experience, internships. Again, we're specifically looking for communication students who are going to pursue careers in PR. You don't necessarily have to be a PR major, because not every college has public relations as a major, but you have to express that you are pursuing a career in PR. And then we ask, and a lot of scholarships ask for an essay. Ours is just a one-page essay. That one-page essay for us, and again, I know a lot of other foundations do that, is very, very important. Make sure that you have someone else review your essay before you turn it in. Do not wait till the last minute to do that. I write for a living. Again, I work in public relations, and I edit other people's work, but I can't edit my own work because I know what I meant to say right, but sometimes that to or be or that whatever word is misplaced or something is misspelled. So have somebody else review it, and not just your best friend. If you're a professor, or if you're in high school, a teacher or a parent or someone you trust to give you honest feedback. Last year, again, when we were doing our scholarship, there was one student who had very impressive grades, a very nice resume, but the essay clearly was done last minute, the night before the essay was due, and that really knocked that person out of consideration for getting one of our scholarships. And one of the other last things I wanted to point to, again, I'm talking about the fact that, our foundation is for PR students. If you're in a major, if you know that you're going to college, you're going to major, a certain major, I would definitely try to check out those professional organizations and associations, because a lot of times they offer scholarships, and those sometimes may not be as publicized, and so therefore the competition may not be as great. For example, if you're a business major or an accounting major, I know that the Virginia Society of CPAs also have their own separate foundation, and they give scholarships as well. So if you're a nursing major or a PR major or an accounting major or what have you, look for those networking and professional associations as well. Because again, instead of competing against the whole span of students, you're only competing against those students who are pursuing careers in that specific field.
To go off of that very quickly, it's important not only to look at the foundations in your area, to look at the national organizations and the local organizations for that particular major that you're trying to go into. Also, local community foundations often have scholarship programs that are available. For example, here in the Richmond area, there is TCF Richmond, the Community Foundation for Richmond. And Hampton Roads, I know there's the Hampton Roads Community Foundation. And those are very close together, but they're two completely separate foundations that reach out to different organizations. Or rather to different students and to different organizations in the area, but they then collect all of those organizations' scholarship programs and put them within the Community Foundation, making it easier for you to find those scholarship programs, trying to reach out to 10, 20 different organizations. So that's also a good place to look. Tom, I believe you had an answer to the question?
Yep. For ours, it's a little bit different. Ours is not necessarily a GPA merit-based scholarship. What we have a GPA minimum requirement to apply for the scholarship that we offer, the Dorothy Hall Scholarship, which is our major one. And I did want to mention that we do issue $2,500 scholarships. So it's quite a bit that we give out every year for our members. We're very, very committed to financial education and literacy, so that's typically what our essay piece is about. But once you meet the minimum criteria, which is you have to be applying for an undergraduate degree, it's not for grad students, it is for anybody of any age, but once you meet that minimum threshold and the GPA minimum requirement is 3.0, that is not calculated into your overall scoring, okay? For ours, the different weighted categories are community service and volunteer work, hours devoted to work to help pay the cost of your own tuition, so like after work jobs, summer jobs, things like that. And we don't require any kind of, you're not applying for a loan with us, so we don't require income verification, like we won't collect your W-2s or anything like that.
Some do.
Yeah, some actually do. That's very right. That's very true. Ours, we don't. We also look at extracurricular activities such as sports, clubs, things like that, like being the president of the SGA and those kinds of things. And then the essay is the fourth component of ours. So we serve a very, very wide range of our members and from different socioeconomic classes. So it's also not, ours is also not an income-based, it's not weighted based on your income. Like we don't give our scholarships out only to people who are of low income, but you're all eligible to apply for it. So once you meet that minimum criteria of you got to be a full-time student, undergraduate degree, 3.0 GPA, then we look at the other extracurriculars, work experience, things like that. So again, there are a lot of different options and different opportunities for scholarships, as we're going to kind of find out as we go through this. Just make sure that you know be very diligent in reading the materials provided by that scholarship provider.
Yes. To add to that, many foundations often have multiple scholarships that they give out within their scholarships. However, they tend to have the same essay for every different scholarship application. Students have come to me saying, well, how do I differentiate myself between scholarships when I'm applying to multiple scholarships within any one foundation? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe most of the time when it's one foundation, the same judge is looking at each individual scholarship, so they're all different. So if you submit one essay and then you submit that for each and every scholarship, if one of those essays is looked at by the same judging panel and they say, I don't particularly like this essay, let's move on to the next one, and then they see your essay for another scholarship from the foundation, and they read it again and say, they've literally just submitted exactly the same essay for the other scholarship that I didn't like, they're going to throw out the rest of the application because you didn't write an essay that was worthy of that scholarship program. So when you're writing to multiple scholarships within any one foundation, make sure that you submit a different essay for each scholarship. If the essay is the same, the prompt, change it by looking at who the foundation named the scholarship after, look at the donors, look at what the foundation's mission is, and include that within your application and differentiate it from essay to essay.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
That is really good. That's good advice in that situation. And I will say, if you do find scholarships such as ours that have a common application, that's a little different, where basically what you'll want to do is just write to the prompt the best you can, because what's going to happen is there's probably a committee. Our committee committee looks at your writing overall. And then based on the individual criteria is what differentiates each student for that scholarship. So you're not necessarily having to get into the minutia of the criteria for each individual fund. You're just going to have to be as thorough as you can and write as much as you can within the character limit or within the space limit that you're allowed to make sure that they can get as much of who you are in your writing, so that you can be sure that you've not missed anything when you're dealing with that common application.
Exactly. And, to go off of that, it's often important that when you're trying to talk about yourself in an essay, a common mistake that I see with students is that they introduce their scholarship application. The first thing that they say in their essay is, "Hi, my name is Lorraine Lucia. I'm a public relations major, and I'm studying this, for this, and this career." A lot of the times that information is already included in the application portion, where it says, "Please state your name, major, address, and your phone number." Don't repeat the same thing that's already on your application form, because you're taking up characters that you could be using for your application. Many essays require you to submit a minimum amount of words or a maximum amount of words, and you don't want to go over or under that limit. So don't take up words repeating something that's already on your application that they already know about you. Introduce new things about yourself within your essay. Would anybody like to ask a question?
Yes,
ma'am.
Jonathan West hasn't spoken. And Jonathan West has the most intriguing title, college funding. So what do you do for students that are need-based?
What do you do with students that are need-based opportunities?
Specifically as regards scholarships, we maintain on our website a database of local private scholarships. I haven't said anything because there's so many good answers that you just don't need to hear it again and again. But I'm a big fan of local scholarships, as these folks are too. And I just think it's hard to find them. So when you're out looking, you have a limited amount of time. We put together and continue every week to add to it as many local scholarships as we could find from kind of the central Virginia, greater Richmond, and sometimes the whole state of Virginia, and put them on our website so students and parents could go and just search and look. They're need-based, they're not need-based, they're all sorts of different things. The benefit of local scholarships, if you can't tell, is that the applicant pools are so much smaller. So when you're in there in a group of 5 or 10 or 15 applicants, the odds of winning the scholarship are much greater than the national scholarships that you hear so much about, that get so much publicity, that are on the websites like FastWeb and scholarships.com, High Five. Those are good, but it's a two-pronged approach. You can do a national approach and go through those big websites, but focus locally. The website where we have the scholarship database, and there are about 400, 450 local scholarships, is thecollegecompanion.com.
And I would definitely agree with that. Part of what my organization, Scholarship Sharing, does is basically a smaller version of the college funding group. We run as a student-affiliated organization, and we're currently in the process of getting our 501c3 status. And what we do is we help students get connected by sitting down with them and finding about their information, about who they are, what their career goals are, and financial situations that they have with their families. And we connect them with scholarships that are more locally available, as well as the scholarships that are nationally available. By getting a mix of those two scholarship opportunities, you increase your chances of the scholarship program. I know that local scholarships are especially a good place to start because, as you said, they are much less competitive than the national scholarships are. However, I know that it's sometimes very difficult to find them. So organizations like ours basically become the mediator for you guys and help you to connect with the scholarship opportunities. We'll tell you, here's a list of scholarships that are available for you, but we'll take it a step further and we'll sit down with you and help you through the process of writing your essays, getting your letters of recommendation, ordering your transcripts, working on building up your resume, connecting service opportunities, because those are often some of the most difficult parts of creating a scholarship program. So the first step is finding the opportunities and being able to get the skills needed to get to that point, which is part of what we do.
I mean, the eligible community scholarship, in the city of Richmond, there's a couple of high schools that have gone unclaimed every single year. And we offer it through the school system. The counselors get the word out and no one applies. So if it's targeted towards specific groups and the specific group, no one applies for that particular scholarship, then yes, the money will not be dispersed.
Basically be moved on to the next year. It doesn't go away. The scholarship doesn't disappear. It will still be there for the next school year, but basically it makes it so that those students who could have been applying to it don't get the opportunity to benefit from them. I know, for example, our scholarship program, we're giving a $500 scholarship semester. The deadline is on March 30th of this year. We only received 4 applications to date. We've been accepting in January, and we haven't gotten any more than that. Last semester, we had a total of 30 applications, and that was over 6 months that we had the application open. So while I don't think that some scholarships just don't end up getting applications, we don't tell people about it, more that students aren't applying to them and they're not taking the initiative to move forward and get their applications in on time. A lot of those local scholarship opportunities are the ones that get nobody to apply for them. So that's where we come in to connect to those different scholarship programs. A lot of the time, the reason that those scholarships never get claimed isn't because they don't want to be claimed, it's because the scholarship foundation is usually smaller and they don't have the funding to advertise about those programs through anywhere but public networks, such as through the newspapers or through PSAs on the radio or through getting it out to their high schools or community colleges. Those are all great places to start to look for those resources that often don't get tapped into. And of course, there's resources like Campus here, who are always happy to connect to those. I'm sorry, Ben, would you mind repeating your question?
Yes. So the scholarship awards that you mentioned, does that occur? You give it to them for every year? For your college, they will be awarded $1,000. So is it for every year or is it just 1 year? And if they do get 1 year, are they eligible to apply to get the next year? Like, what are the rules?
Okay, so I can partially answer that, and I'd be happy to have somebody else answer as well. For some scholarship programs, you're talking about a renewable scholarship. The way they work is if you receive a scholarship 1 year and you maintain the eligibility requirements for that scholarship, which might be completing a certain amount of community service hours, or you have to write a letter of recommendation every year, you have to receive a new letter, or you have to write a thank you letter to the donor every year saying thank you so much for supporting our cause, or you might be required to maintain a certain GPA, things like that, to keep your scholarship for the previous year. They may also ask you to submit your FAFSA every year to them saying, I would like you to show that you're still in financial scholarship. Usually those are what renewable scholarships are like. Some scholarship programs don't automatically renew, but you can apply for them the next year. The way that works is you'd end up receiving the scholarship 1 year, the check would be mailed to your university, and then put it to the financial aid account. And you usually have a place for that on the application. And you have to reapply just like everybody else, but you have a higher chance of receiving that scholarship because you've already received it 1 year. There are scholarships where it automatically renews, where you don't have to do anything. You just have to show that you're still enrolled at the university, and then they'll mail out the check. It really depends on the scholarship program that is accepting the application. Does anyone else have a question? Yes.
Hi, I'm a second student at RDC. My name is Katie. I was wondering about the local scholarships. I heard there's a bunch of different. My family lives in Northern Virginia, but I live for 12 months for Richmond. Can I apply for a Richmond local scholarship, or can I only apply for Richmond?
Okay. Would anyone like to answer this before I do?
Sure, I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Basically, like a couple of the other answers I gave, you're probably not going to like this. It depends on the scholarship. That's where you got to kind of, a lot of these scholarships that we're talking about, like the one that I'm talking about is specific to my organization. And the rules and regulations and qualifications around my scholarship are going to be different than the one from J. Sargent Reynolds. So they're all similar in terms of you, such as work experience and activities and all that kind of good stuff, essays, that kind of thing. But the in terms of the eligibility and other qualifications, those are usually unique to each scholarship. So that's where organizations like Lorraine's can help you determine what is a good match for you.
Exactly. And to add to that,
Actually, this gentleman on the end, I think he wants to add to that.
Oh, would you like to add that?
No, I don't think.
I was going to
Oh,
ask you
Oh, sorry.
Wrong gentleman.
It's okay.
He missed the opportunity to tell you you could become a member of
Yes.
the Virginia Credit Union.
Yes.
And then
Right, exactly.
if it was for college students.
Yes.
The truth is, most scholarships, most private scholarships are for high school seniors.
Now, that's not entirely true.
No, most of them. Most of them are.
I'd like to
It's
Thank
okay,
you on that one.
and that's fine. There are some for college students. There are certainly some for graduate students. There are some for high school sophomores and juniors too. But it's a narrower, and I'm not sure about the Virginia Credit Union
You can
specifically.
join and apply.
Right. So that's the smart kind of thing that you can do to, take advantage of what's available in the area.
To expand on that, if you're from two different, there are some Richmond scholarships that you'd be able to apply for just for studying within the Richmond area. Some of them do require you to be graduating from a Richmond high school, for example. There are scholarships that if you graduated from a Nova high school, to help you out specifically, then you would be able to receive that scholarship even if you were studying in Richmond. It goes the same way. Some of the community foundations will require you to have lived in Nova for a certain amount of years to have received their particular scholarship program. And it works the same way if you were in Richmond. If you study for a certain amount of years, for example, at a particular institution in Richmond, there are scholarship programs at the TPS Foundation that you can apply to as a Richmond student. So basically, you can transition back and forth from wherever you were at to where you're currently at. Also, there are scholarships just for being a Virginia resident. And if you want, I'll be happy to tell you about those. There's one in particular, the Virginia State Scholarship Fund for PO Sisterhood. I'm actually a scholar for them. You just have to be a female resident domiciled in Virginia.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't affect our grandparents. I tried to get the grandchildren, I have 529 plans for 2 years starting school. That's the question I'm about the ballpark.
Okay, so the question is for funds for my grandchild. Will that affect their financial assistance that they can receive once they are starting to apply for financial aid in college? Teresa?
The answer is yes. That is counted towards what it is that a student will receive in financial aid assistance. So we have to count any and all assistance that a student receives. So if they have a 529 plan, that is going to count as a part of their package, so to speak, financial aid package.
One is the vision. That's it.
Right.
But that eliminates the, I was trying to keep that back. I thought it was a single parent. Just what I'm doing, trying to her. She may not have her much.
Right, and so when you apply for financial aid and you're awarded financial aid, that financial aid goes towards the bill. So the bill will also have room and board of the student living on campus, and if they're not living off campus, then it will go towards the bill, and if there is money left over, it will assist the student with paying for the off-campus housing as well. So does it completely knock them out? No. But is it counted? Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to this?
But again, I think that that's related to funding that you would get through the university. But again, like I said, any of these private scholarships that we've been talking about, we don't take that into consideration at all. We actually, particularly when there's no, again, as the gentleman said, I can only talk about our scholarship, but we don't ask you anything about your finances at all. Our requirements, what they are, we're looking at your essay, the GPA, those kinds of things. So those private scholarships, I'm assuming there are a lot of them out there that would not count that against you, that you've been doing a great job in saving for your grandkids.
In that case, pay for school and whatever bill is that.
Correct.
Check that one.
I will add that if you get outside scholarships additional from some of these corporations and it comes over the cost of attendance, say that's a $5 million extra, then they would get that refund back if it's in the student's name. And once it go into that student account, if they have more in their account than what it costs for the bill, then it's going to be refunded to the student. So yeah, because a lot of families I know, I see it all the time. It goes to the students on week 4. And a lot of students count on that week 4 overage so they can go out and buy them a new laptop or buy some new clothes. But families always ask about, we got this one additional outside scholarship, but shouldn't it cover the next semester? And look, the students are here smiling because they know it's going to come back to them, and that's a nice little check for them. So we don't hold it for the next semester.
This is actually a question. I'll go ahead and go ahead in just a second. There was actually a question that was asked online. If a student does receive a refund, what can they use that refund for, if it's from a scholarship program or from government aid? Because we understand that using it for a video game may not be the best use of it, but some students aren't all that responsible. If they spend it on something other than room and board, textbooks, that kind of thing, can they get that scholarship taken away?
So I will speak from a financial aid perspective. I won't speak to scholarship perspective. When you are completing the FAFSA, the pre-application for federal student aid, and you are receiving federal, state, or institutional aid, you are to use those funds for educational purposes. That is what the FAFSA says. So when you attendance for an institution, what's included in that cost of attendance is tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies. There is a small caveat for personal miscellaneous expenses. So that kind of gives you a little leeway. Maybe that's in your personal miscellaneous, but it is for educational purposes. So when you see a cost of attendance, that's not necessarily what the bill will be, but that's how much a student, like they're talking about getting all of these outside funds. So getting extra funds may assist you with some of those other expenses that come along with attending college.
And you understand, I'm sorry, like other expenses can be, a laptop. You have to pay for your books. That's not called, that's not directly paid to the university. That's for the student and the family to occur.
But I'd just like to say that the students aren't waiting for week 4 because they want to go out and go buy books.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's looking over their shoulder or their debit card to see what they're going to go spend it on. So you just imagine.
Yeah, and I take them.
So you end up with a 10-year student loan for Domino's Pizza.
Yeah, if you get the aid and pay down the interest on your unsubsidized student loans, don't go spend it and pay down the interest. And the issue is going toward educational purposes. So if we get a bill back that shows that everything is taken care of, I have to have proof that that money is going maybe to a summer program that they would like to utilize or help for specific reasons. So, it's going to vary as far as the individual scholarships, but that is something that we definitely take seriously.
Our next question is, I have seen a lot of scholarships that are scanned. What advice would you give on spotting scholarships that are scanned and how to avoid them? Would anyone like to
talk about that.
I'll start. It's late night. I'm starting to talk more. One thing, I think the best piece of advice, most panels like this or situation in each of the neighborhoods, they're going to have scholarships nights, financial aid night. This is free advice, and I would afford it all the way. In the same way, if it costs you $50 to apply for scholarships, it's the same way. It's a scam, because most likely no one is going to win, or they have a staged picture of the same person who won every year.
I'd just like to add too, it's with anything else. If you see something that you just trust your gut. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. If it seems too simple or too easy, it probably is. And sometimes if they really are confused about it, sometimes people get a hold of E-List and they'll send out our students things, and they just need to get it looked at by someone. So just take it to someone you trust, have somebody look at it and verify whether or not it's legitimate or not. And then another thing with that is when you're going to what is worth your time, there's so many scholarships that are out there. And we've talked about, starting your search nationally and drilling it down to local. But you're going to also want to think about what's going to be the best fit for you. And not every scholarship is going to be a good direct fit for you. And so, scams included some of these scholarship contests as well. There are a lot of them on FastWeb where they want you to do videos, and there's some really crazy things out there. You just need to kind of prioritize and figure out what's going to be the best use of your time. You're going to spend your time trying to find funds, kind of be selective in what's going to give you the best return on your time investment.
And I would also say not just the money, if they're asking for a fee, but then as well personal information, because many scholarships, we do ask for personal information, but asking for particular like social security number, things like that. Yes,
Where were you
absolutely,
born?
something suspicious.
What's your mom's place of birth? Those are typically questions that a bank will ask you to check for your security.
Right. Any type of documentation that they could steal your identity off of, such as your social security number. Definitely protect all of those. And if someone does request something like that, that is something you would want to follow up with before you send out any information. And I would also encourage you, if you email or if you fax information to a particular organization. Granted, ours is all online, but we have gone to great lengths to protect the information that is submitted through encryption. But you just want to make sure that if it is submitted online and there's a lot of personal information on there, that it's legitimate. If there needs to be encryption, sure that is as well. So
Right.
Just like that. It's like with anything, particularly online, credit card something online. I'm not just going to give it to joeblow.com. I'm using Amazon or Zappos or something like that. So it's the same thing. If you find or doing a search and you find some scholarship application or something online, do some extra homework. That's a reputable organization. A lot of times, if you do more research, you may find out there could be a whole list of listed on scams list or Business Bureau, because they have a charities foundation or their website that you can check out organizations. So again, just because you found something, if you've never heard of it particularly, do some extra homework on that before again you give all that personal information. And you want to make sure that they're reputable, have a history of being honest and true.
And to add to that, just because an organization puts on their website, here's our previous scholarship winners, and it's a picture and a name, and that's all the information they give. They don't have the testimonial from that student where it's a video of a real person talking, or they don't have information about, here's what they use their funds for. They don't have any kind of follow-up. A lot of the times, organizations will take those types of scholarships and they'll take a picture from the internet on there, put a name on it, and then call it a scholarship winner. To make sure that student is real, usually just searching that student's name usually will bring up the university, or if they were involved in any kind of extracurriculars, or they got an award newspaper, something like that, will usually help to legitimize if that student was a real person, or if they were stolen from a picture from the internet and stuck onto the website. Also, we talked the membership fee. You're not paying to apply to the scholarship. You're paying for the services the organization provides. You're paying to be able to attend their events. You're paying to be able to get resources from their website, help with job searches, things like that. You're not paying for scholarship. If anyone at any organization ever says you must pay $5, $10 as an application fee, it's probably bogus. Are there loan forgiveness programs that are available to students after they graduate?
Yeah, that there are, but they're very specific, and there are specific guidelines to student loan forgiveness programs. For example, if you're in education and you teach in a low-income school, which would be qualified through the lunch, reduced or free lunch programs, then after, I believe it is 5 years, you can have up to $17,500 of the government-backed loans forgiven. But again, there are stipulations to that. So if you are late making a student loan payment, that can disqualify you from the program. You have to submit your tax returns through the program to the government every year to prove employment and to provide information of where you worked. There are also, if you work for certain nonprofits and other types of government organizations, for example, a police officer, firefighter, public servant type jobs, after 10 years, you could have the potential to have your student loans forgiven at that point. But again, you cannot miss a payment for the 10 years, and also, you will have to submit the requirements every year. So you just have to really stay on top of it. And I always tell college students that, guess what the number one payment is that most college students miss when it comes to student loans? It's the first one. And then that might automatically disqualify them later for a student loan forgiveness program. So it's very important as they're getting ready to graduate that they set themselves up for success when it comes to repayment of that. There's also income-based student loan repayments where it is based upon your salary. So for example, if you're a teacher making, let's say, $35,000, $40,000 and you have a $50,000 student loan, you probably can't afford a $700 student loan payment. So they might whittle it down to perhaps 15% of your income that you could repay. And basically at that point, you're paying the interest down on your student loans. And then of course, after a certain amount of time, if you would qualify to look into the student loans forgiveness programs.
Just to add on is just to be extremely diligent about this. And also that it's also based when you're looking for student loan forgiveness, you have to be under one of those particular programs that either income-based repayment plan or pay-as-you-earn plan. And these are usually 10-year standard plans that have to be paid to meet those requirements. But a lot of companies are being open to seeing that basis of it. So if you can talk to your company that you work for, if you're looking at that. But again, the stipulations are extremely tight. And being on top of it is very vital.
If you go online and if you look under that, like for example, on Sallie Mae website or whatnot, they will explain the guidelines of what that is for student loan forgiveness. So if you are going into one of these fields, it's definitely something to investigate to make sure that, if you do qualify, that you're taking full advantage of it.
I just realized one thing that we haven't talked about. I don't know if it applies to Richmond. It seems like the tobacco forgiveness loan. It's not even a loan anymore. Does Richmond get covered by the tobacco forgiveness grant? No? Wow, okay.
I think
it's Virginia.
Yeah,
Buckingham
Buckingham.
is covered in it. Okay, I'm sorry. That's okay.
Yes. This is a little bit to the last question, but I know that you said when students have extra, I guess, forms of dividends from their families or they build up savings, like that affects their financial aid package. But if you were to apply for scholarships, you have to report that to your financial aid package for the second summer. I'm a junior, and I'm wondering if I should just, go on to apply for these scholarships now. Would that make my package lower? Would I make it more? So the question was, if you receive scholarships, can those affect your financial aid package that you receive? Should I be applying for scholarship programs that can be detrimental to my financial aid that I'm receiving from the government?
So I guess that's all me, huh? So to answer your question, yes, we consider scholarships when you are getting outside scholarships. Now, we talked about cost of attendance. Cannot exceed the cost of attendance. So let's say the cost of attendance is $28,000, and between financial aid and scholarship, you got $30,000. Can't get to the $30,000. Only set for 28. So what we would tell you to do, really, and what we would do typically is go in and reduce your loan. So if you're getting all these outside scholarships and you get a financial aid package, the first thing you need to do is see how much you have in loans and how much of that can be canceled out to take on those scholarships. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if you do not need the student loans, do
Don't
not
take
take them. That's what we would all say.
Yeah, we teach a lot of like financial education stuff about just credit in general, and that's a pretty blanket rule. If you don't need to borrow the money, you're paying for that money. Like you will be, whether you get it subsidized and you don't pay the interest till later, or it's unsubsidized and you're paying, like, the meter's running all the time. Same with like a personal loan or a credit card. The more debt that you have, any kind of debt, the more interest you're paying on that debt. So it's more beneficial for you to, like, if you get approved for a student loan at X amount of dollars, and that will cover your tuition and everything, and then you get that extra money for living expenses, that money is money you're going to have to pay back eventually. So try to reduce that, limit that to as little as you possibly can borrow, and find other ways to supplement your living expenses, if you can.
Lots of different ways. There are free, like grants and scholarship programs. That actually nicely transitions into a couple of other questions we've had. We had some students who asked, I'm a work study student, however, I'm looking for other opportunities to pay for my education that don't include scholarships or grants. What other types of jobs would there be to supplement my education? I think what the student is talking about is internship programs and outside job opportunities that aren't necessarily sponsored by the university. Would anyone here like to talk about that?
There are a lot of times, especially if you work full-time or part-time for many larger institutions mainly, there are tuition reimbursement programs available through those companies. I can speak to my current situation. I work for the Virginia Credit Union, as I said earlier. If I apply to go back to grad school, let's say, my company will, after I commit to it, I must pay for it up front and commit to maybe a 2-year extension and commit to working there for 2 years. They will reimburse me a certain percentage, a certain dollar amount per credit, based on the amount of money that I borrow. So you gotta, depending upon where you work, either full-time or part-time, those options are available to you. I know a lot of the financial institutions have those policies available for full and part-time. So just be very diligent on. I can assure you that waiting tables does not offer that as an option. Okay.
Now, I do believe that if you're employed at VCU, correct me if I'm wrong, Teresa, that if you're employed as a full-time VCU employee, that you can receive a certain amount of classes for free every year that the university sponsors.
That is correct. We have a tuition waiver program here at VCU for our full-time faculty and staff. That's correct, yes.
Does that include include students who work full-time, or is it only for like professors who work at financial aid office, that kind of thing?
Wow, really?
It was just the first thing that popped in my head. You got to do
It is any full-time faculty and staff member, yes.
And are there similar programs for community colleges and other universities as well, or is that
No, we have the same program. If you're a full-time staff member or faculty member, then you can receive certain, I think it's up to 2 classes per semester that you can take free tuition free. It sounds like from the student question, maybe just in that mode, that they're thinking about the difference between work-study jobs and campus job and non-work-study jobs. Work-study job is what's going to come off your financial aid package, and you have to go out and apply and get those. But other departments around campus will have job opportunities for students to work. St. Line Missions offers our tour guides non-work study, but we still pay them a nice salary, and then like the phone bank. So they can look around campus for other jobs other than work study. And you hear that kind of confusion with a lot of new freshmen. They think if it's not on their award package to their work study, they can't go out and get a job, but they can.
Okay. I have a question actually, and I'll love to hear from you as well. For work study programs, I know I did work study at Point University, but then I looked at how work study after it was a little different. In general, how does work study work?
I can figure. So how work study works is when you complete your FAFSA, you have to be awarded work study. Work study is a need-based program. So it's not going to be something that a student can come to the office and say, okay, now I want work study. When you complete your FAFSA, question number 31, yes, I look at it that often. Question number 31, and it asks if you're interested in work study. You answer yes, and if you have need and we have funding, then that is a part of your financial aid award package. And typically, students are awarded work study for a particular dollar amount, and once you earn that dollar amount, then you have to stop that work study position unless that department has funding to keep on as a non-work study student. Since I brought up the FAFSA, we were kind of chit-chatting and at the break, I'm going to say this out loud for those of you who are seniors. The priority deadline to complete your FAFSA is tomorrow. It is March 1st. So that's the priority deadline. So I just want to kind of put that out in the atmosphere while we're talking about funding and FAFSA and all of those things. I think we're after February 15th.
Yes.
Okay. So
Do you have to do that again, or you got another sibling?
every year.
No, every year you do it.
You do the FAFSA, and then when a new sibling comes on, it will ask for number and household number in college. So then you're able to add
Just add it on.
the other son. That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
You know, when you do the FAFSA for a second child, I know I have just started college as well. Do you have to fill out a totally separate FAFSA form and just put, I have another sibling in college, or do you just submit one and put 2?
Have a separate FAFSA for every single student. So if you got 3, you got 3 FAFSAs to do. Because every single student, I know, good job, Mom. Every single student has their own financial aid package under their social security number. And make sure you are providing that information to the institution. Sometimes you all do a common app, it will say you don't need to provide a social security number. And so we assign you a DCU number. We need your social security number on your admissions application in order to download your FAFSA, just as a point of information.
Yes, ma'am.
So what time about right? Make sure, like, you know.
I know you have nothing to do tonight. The first thing every parent and student has to do is get a PIN, which is your personal identification number. That's how you're going to electronically sign your FAFSA. So you can do that tonight. And then tomorrow morning, when you got nothing to do, you can go ahead and complete the FAFSA. Sometimes I know parents are like, oh, I haven't done my taxes. I don't do my taxes until April 15th, so I'm going to wait. Let me be clear. You do not have to have your taxes done in order to complete your FAFSA. On the FAFSA form, it asks you, have you completed your tax return? The options are already completed, will file, and will not file. If you have not done it, just put will file. We will come back later and ask for a copy of your tax transcript. But you want to make that deadline.
I think I saw another here somewhere.
Actually, we
Oh, you kind of just answered it. The kind of back to the 5 deadline.
For every student, be you returning or a new incoming freshman, March 1st, priority deadline.
So I mean, if your parent hasn't done it, taxes, will file, when you come back and ask us that, about that deadline.
No, so we'll come back later and ask. So when we start downloading the FAFSA, then we will come back later and ask for what are called verification documents. And so we may ask for a tax transcript, we may ask for a W-2, we may send you a worksheet to fill out. It's a variety of information that we may ask just to verify what was put on the FAFSA.
So that was last year?
Yes.
Last year's tax.
Right, and so if you've done a FAFSA in the past, it'll automatically populate with information you had last year, or you can use last year's tax returns if those numbers are similar. If they are not, then you're going to be way off, and you're going to get a financial aid package that's not going to be accurate, and then when you get the tax transfer, it's going to change.
Can I add as a parent to former college students, am I correct that, I mean, a percentage gets audited?
Sure.
So my daughter got an email saying, you want to audit your FAFSA, and never called me because I don't get,
Oh,
share that.
okay, so let's talk about this process. So that process is called verification. And so, yes, every school is required to verify a certain percentage of their students. So this is a random selection process. Don't take it personally if you send an email or a letter saying we want to verify you. But parents, let me look at all of you and say this to you. Once your student becomes our student, we have cut off communication with you. We will email your student, we will not email you. It is the responsibility of the student to check their email on a regular basis in order to find out what it is that we need from them. Often students, oh, that's just financial aid, I'll read it later. They never go back to it later. There is no copying parent. It is called FERPA. And you all will hear that. It's a beautiful thing.
So basically, as soon as high school students in the room become 18 and go off to college, mommy and daddy can no longer hold you by the leash and say you have to do your FAFSA every year. So let me put it like this. It's in your own benefit to talk to mommy and daddy, because if you don't, you can lose out on free aid, you can lose out on scholarships, you can lose out on a lot of opportunities to get mommy and daddy to help you pay for food that's not wrong.
So
Consider talking to them and forward the information.
And let me say this, if your student has not signed a release form, or we don't have a tax return that shows that you are claiming that student, if you call me and ask questions, I cannot give you information about your student. So it is very important that you start having that conversation now with your student about the importance of checking their email and responding in a timely fashion when we are requesting documentation.
Yes. Another question from a student regarding the FAFSA process. I was born in the United States, but my parents are undocumented. Can I still apply for the FAFSA? I know the answer is yes, but there's more to it. That's why I looked.
Sure about that answer?
Yeah, but it's not going.
Right, and that's the issue. You can apply, but where is it going? Because on the FAFSA, it's going to ask not just for a student social security number, but for a parent social security number.
Right.
So once you're going through that process, you can't process the FAFSA. It's not going to do anything.
Isn't there a place on the FAFSA though that it says if your parents are undocumented?
California. Certain states have that.
Yeah, certain states have that. I'm not sure if Virginia does. I know some FAFSA do.
If the parents
parent does not have the social security number,
Being created.
you enter zeros. So you
That's
enter
what it is.
zero,
Thank
zero,
you.
zero,
Thank you.
00000. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I read. I don't know if that means that they actually receive any aid.
They cannot.
Okay. I know part of it. I don't know
Yeah.
all of it. And this is why you can't. Yeah, I think my mom is the director.
That is
What was the question?
Yes.
The question is, can an undocumented, a student who is documented, who was born in the U.S., apply for the FAFSA if their parents are undocumented? Yes, can they apply as an independent student? I guess maybe that would be a way around it.
No,
Apply as an independent.
You still have to prove that you're independent. And anyone who's, I think the age limit is 24, your parents are still responsible for you. So you don't have to prove, you have to send information in on your parents until you're 24, you own a house, paying your rent, have all these things to prove that you're really independent and you're paying taxes in Virginia. So it's another verification process to prove that you're independent. And that's a lot, because it's the same thing as students that get to college and they want to go independent by the time they're junior or senior. And it's not enough time because you're not 24, so then you have to go through all these other proof, taxes, if you have a residency, you're paying, so all that has to be proved that you're independent.
There are some very specific questions on the FAFSA that let us know if the student is independent or not. So it is not just by virtue of saying, I'm paying my own rent. That does not make you independent. There are very specific questions, one of them being, how old are you? Are you working on a graduate degree? Do you have any children that you provide more than half of their support to? Do you have any other dependents that you provide more than half of their support to? Are you homeless? Are you an orphan ward of support? There's some very specific questions. Now, what you're asking is outside of the scope of those questions. And so then that's something that they will come into the financial aid office and specifically speak about. So if there's an issue of abuse or those things that do not fit into that criteria, then that's something that, one, is court documented, and that student will have to come and talk to us and provide all of that documentation. Also, if students have very special circumstances that don't fit into the questions on the FAFSA, that's something that they will come into the financial aid office and speak to us correct.
So long answer short, talk to your financial aid officer. They'll be able to help you with your specific situation.
Yes.
So the next question that we have is, are there any programs that provide financial assistance homeschool for children who came from foster care, or are they only available to students who attended a public school?
I think I can answer that one.
Okay.
It depends on what scholarship you're applying for. For ours, we do have a homeschool, like homeschooled students are eligible to apply for our scholarship. So it really does depend on what you're looking for, like what avenues you're going down, what scholarships you are personally applying for.
And again, I would look into specific organizations designed to support those particular populations. So, for example, UMFS, they might actually have scholarships geared toward children in foster care, or specific programs such as that, or homeschooling programs. Jonathan.
Great. Okay. Our next question is, what would you say is more important on an application, community involvement or academics?
You can answer that.
I think I can answer that one. It depends on the scholarship that you're applying for. I apologize for such a blanket answer for all of this, but there is such a wide variety. And Lorraine did a great job of setting up a fair last year, and I believe we're going to be doing one again later on in the fall semester. And the just variety of organizations there representing groups of people who want to, for public relations reasons, for just charitable contributions reasons, fraternities, all these different organizations have different motivations for applying these funds to help educate these young adults and aged adults and anybody trying to get an education. So read the fine print.
And I would say we,
Actually,
We do have a scholarship fair that's going to be coming up in October of this year. We'll finalize those dates in March on the 10th. So check out our website to find out when those dates are going to be so that you can put it in your calendar for next year. I'm hoping we have some of our panelists here who will be participating. I'm looking forward to it. You had something else to add?
I was just going to add, if you're looking at the four-year schools and it's a merit-based scholarship program, the most important criteria is definitely going to be the academics, and that's what I was speaking to earlier. That's first and foremost, that you are qualified and have done the work in high school. Your academics come first, and then all the other criteria would be included in case everyone is a 4.0 to 1600. Then we have another way to break it down. But for the most part, it's going to be based on how well you've done in high school.
I think I saw a hand somewhere. Yes.
Kind of already put this earlier, but I want to when you foundation sends money to the college that go, how does it work that spend that for like this course? I know that some scholarships are going to require that you thing.
So Tom, you want to answer that question?
It depends. No, there were some other people who had better information on that than I do.
I think most scholarships are going to be we're going to want you to utilize them for educational purposes. So there have been times when students have received scholarships, but then they got a full ride, let's say from Bradford, and they had the South. Students receive that we know we could not give educational expenses to put toward because it is taken care of. Now, we've looked at special circumstances to where, let's say there was a summer program that they wanted to go through and the scholarship money that they got from, let's say, Radford or the university didn't apply to that particular program. So then they submitted that to us. So then we were able to release funds to the university to apply for that specific summer program. But we're definitely going to want to see that whatever we provide for you as far as scholarship funds is going toward education. Some and not others. Some might be if you want for a computer or something like that, but definitely the scholarships, yeah, they would want to see it going toward educational expense.
Right. Which I can actually say from my own experience, that's actually happened before where I found $30,000 in scholarships, and there was one year where I had some ridiculous amount of money, but it was, and I received a telegram on top of that, and I had a refund that I was able to. I called the scholarship foundation and I said, I don't want to have too many funds. Should I give this back to you? Because I felt like I was kind of greedy money. And they said, what we can do is if you had a loan that you already took out from last year, we'll go ahead and pay off the loan for you. And they went and they applied the scholarship to the loan that had previously. So that's another option. Sometimes it's just talking to the foundation that gave you the scholarship to see what you can do to use those funds so that you're not overstepping the amount of money that you're receiving.
Definitely about what the process would be. Don't just let it go. Absolutely.
It depends on the college too, because every college has a policy on outside scholarships and how, as you've heard from on ECU and a little bit on Radford, how the scholarship gets worked into your financial aid package. And I think the one thing that's important to understand is when you do the FAFSA and you get your expected family contribution, pick a number, let's say that's $10,000, and then you go about getting your financial aid package from the school to address the balance of the cost. If you're lucky enough to win a scholarship, a lot of families will think, oh, I can use that towards my expected family contribution or some part that they were going to have to come up with anyway. Generally, that's not the case. And so it depends, though, on your specific school, what the financial aid package is, and how that's going to work into it. But the scholarship will benefit you. You still want to get it. I mean, even if it's reducing some of your unmet need, perhaps, or if it's reducing loans, that's great. That's great. So you still want to get them. Very few people that are in a situation where getting an outside scholarship, doesn't
actually
right. But you do want to know what the school's policy is at some point, because that's going to matter.
Okay, we have a question is for here at VCU and for other community colleges and universities. If you're a graduate assistant or a TA, would those be considered full-time employees of the university? Qualify for that tuition assistance?
Say that you need to look at the tuition waiver form very carefully and see what criteria is on that tuition waiver form. So the answer off the top of my head is no. No. But look at the form, go over the form with the supervisor, and see if you fit any of that criteria. But off the top of my head, the answer is going to be no.
Move on to our next question. If I receive a scholarship for my current major and I switch majors, can I apply to scholarships for my new major, or do I have to return scholarships I received from when I was in my old major?
Can I answer that? Read the fine print, folks. That goes for you folks online too. Just like Cherry was saying, be in communication with the issuers of your scholarship dollars. They will tell you, they will answer these specific questions for you.
It depends, because there will be students who will get a scholarship from us and they will switch majors, and if the fine print for that specific scholarship does not say that they're ineligible because they switch majors, then they're fine. It says you have to be a science major. You're no longer a science major, you've fallen out of eligibility, and so that speaks for it.
Yes, and that's what I was going to state with the foundation. A lot of those are specific by the academic college or the academic major, and you have to go according to the foundation guidelines. For us at Radford, we review those at the end of each academic year. So in the mid-year, you may get to keep it through the second semester, but I can almost guarantee you, if you switch major and it's specific for music and you switch to dance, it's going to be taken away at the end of the year. It's not going to be saying it's okay to keep it, because we have to stick to the foundation guidelines.